And then how long after that did you appear in NXT?
Oh, it was like 5 or 6 months later. And it was, I kind of felt bad because I didn't know anything about the NXT, deal. And she was like, well, you're not going to sign with WWE, are you? I was like, no, I just want to go home. I just want to spend some time with my kids. And NXT was in Nashville, and Road Dogg was like, hey, man, we're in Nashville. You want to just drop by the show? I was like, yeah, sure. So, I like Road Dogg. Like, he's always kind of gave it to me straightforward and everything. And that's what wrestling needs, is people that don't beat around the bush. They just tell you how it is. And so I went up there and I was watching, and then he came over and he brought his phone to me, and it was a text from Hunter. He goes, hey, ask Storm if he'll come down here and just talk to us or whatever, and maybe work a match if he wants to or whatever. And I looked at him. I was like, yep. I was like, my bag's already packed. Let's go. And so, yeah. So, and then it was, I guess, about 3 weeks later, I went down there and had the NXT match.
You had 2 matches in NXT.
Yeah.
Why didn't that turn into something more?
It was a lot. It mostly had to do with my family. People, had a little bit to do with money, which is not like, hey, they didn't pay him a lot of money, so he's not coming. It wasn't like that at all. And it was, they gave me a contract, and I went home and I got a call from Regal, and he goes, hey, we definitely want to sign you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, great, or whatever. So I was going to sign the contract and all that stuff. And then he asked me, he goes, can you tighten up a little bit? I was like, yeah, like lose a little weight. I was like, yeah. And I busted my ass and I lost 20 pounds. I got in really good shape. When I got back down there, everybody's like, oh my God, like you look totally different. I was like, oh, thank you. Because I always tell people, you give a man motivation, and he'll work his ass off. If you motivate somebody to do something. And so I did it, and then when I got down there, it was like the contract had changed or whatever. It's like they added 25 more dates, but the money didn't move. And I even told him, I was like, look, this is like TNA had offered me another contract to come back because they heard about me wanting to sign with WWE. And I said, look, this is what TNA's offered me, and I'm not trying to hold this over your head at all, because you don't have to match this at all. I'm just saying this is what I'm willing to give up to come and work for this, but it has to be right, because my wife, she wanted to have another child at the time, but she had to take the shots and all this stuff. So I was basically kind of giving that up as well.
Like IVF?
Yeah, because I was going to be on the road a lot, and we came to an agreement, and she was like, well, if they can just give you this, then, you have my blessing to sign. And Hunter's like, I just can't do it. And I was just like, all right, man, well, I'm sorry, man. Like, my wife gave me permission not to sign, so I'm going home. And 3 days later, Kenya Seaman called me. He goes, hey, man, Paul wants to know if he can call you. I was like, what? I was like, you talking about Hunter? He's like, yeah. He's like, what? I was like, he has my phone number. I just talked to him not too long ago. He goes, well, since you're not signed, we have to go through the proper channels, and I have to make sure. I was like, he's like, you're on a recorded line. I was like, whatever. I was like, yeah, he can call me. So he called me, and I talked, and he's like, look, you're not going to be here long, because Vince loves characters and you know how to work, so you'll probably be shipped off real quick. And I was like, well, can you give what, I was asking or whatever? And it was, like I said, it was not much at all. And he's like, no, man, I just don't have the authority to do that. And I was like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm going to have to say no.
Was that a tough decision?
That was the hardest phone call I think I've ever had to get off the phone with a man. I was like, man, like, usually I just hang up the phone. I was like, oh man, am I making the right decision?
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I didn't know at the time, but it was the right decision for me and my family at that time, because, I was able to have my son that's 8 years old now and everything. So, and I can't imagine what if I would have taken that,
Was the door still open to go back to TNA?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because they offered me the contract. They even upped the contract once, and they gave me more money, which I was just like, okay, well, and it was a guaranteed contract as well. So, and all that worked out, like it should. And it was good, because I took that money that I got and I invested it in other things as well.
So the dates that you worked in WWE in NXT, that was you were just freelancing? There was one-offs?
Yeah. They were just one.
And they had you win both those matches.
Yeah. And that's what I say. I said, like, right now I'm better than The Undertaker, because I'm undefeated.
Undefeated in WWE.
Yeah.
But so you were just working those as one-off matches.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, like I said, they called me back down and said, hey, do you want to work again? I was like, yeah, sure. The first time they had me there, like they had me like hiding in a secret location because they didn't want anybody to know that I was there for my first match or whatever. So they wanted to be a complete surprise and everything, which it was. Like it came off really good.
Was there ever the opportunity to go back to WWE?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Hunter. I even saw him at Flair's wedding and stuff. But like when I got off the phone with him, he's like, "Hey man," he goes, "just keep yourself in really good shape, and once your TNA deal runs out," he goes, "give me a call back, and we'll see if we got something for you or whatever." So I called him back, and of course, it was nothing around that time for me.